Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Charlie. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing y'all how to make my delicious oven roasted goose stuffed with a chicken, turkey, shrimp, and ham cornbread dressing. And in addition to that, we create a delicious homemade goose gravy to go right along with it. Now, we first start off by cleaning, cutting the excess fat, and marinating the goose overnight. The next day, we stuff it, and then we bake it until it's done. Then we take the pan juices and the giblets and make a delicious homemade goose gravy. This recipe calls for you to make about one whole 9-pound goose. It's perfect for holidays like Christmas. Instead of having that old traditional ham and turkey, you can make a goose. It's flavorful and absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here's all what you'll need to make your stuffed oven roasted goose. Let's get started with our ingredients. You will need a 9.5-pound young goose. And this is how the goose looks here. Just wanted to give you an overall view of how it looks. And for your seasonings, you'll need some salt, black pepper, Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic, onion powder, garlic, dried thyme, and you're also going to need some all-purpose flour and some hickory liquid smoke. And for your stuffing, here I have some cornbread dressing that I made. Now this contains chicken, turkey, shrimp, and ham. This is a sage style stuffing here. So you can use any other type of dressing that you want for this recipe. And to bake your goose, you'll need a 12 by 16 inch roasting pan. And you will also need a V roasting rack to go right along with it. And there we have it. Alright, here we have our goose here. This is how it looks. Now, before we begin the preparation of the goose, you want to make sure that your goose is completely thawed out. So if your goose is frozen, you're going to take it and place it into your refrigerator for about 3 to 4 days or until the goose has completely thawed out. Here is the cavity back here, and as you can see, this is the goose neck. Let's just go ahead and try to get that out of there. You could just pull that out. Oh my goodness. And it looks like all the rest of this is nothing but a bunch of fat, which we're going to trim off. See, like this is a, oh my goodness, this is a lot of fat in here. Let's see. And look at this, y'all. We have the giblet right here. We're going to set that on the side. Some more giblet. I think that's the liver, I believe. But other than that, the cavity should be completely hollow. I'm sorry, y'all. I know this might look a little disgusting. But yeah, the cavity should be completely hollow. So now that we have the parts removed, you're just going to take the parts and you could just place them into your refrigerator. Alright, now I've turned the goose over, and as you can see, there's this big flap of skin right here. This is a huge flap of skin right here. And now I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to trim that skin off. And this can go into the Tupperware with the rest of the parts. So we're going to make a gravy with that. Now on this side, as you can see, there's quite a lot of excessive skin right here. And I'm going to just take my knife and I'm just going to trim this excessive skin off. I'm going to do the other side here. Actually, I'm going to trim all of this off. Try to get over so you guys can see. There we go. Alright, that looks pretty. That looks a little bit more cleaner than usual. Let me see how this inside looks. See if I can trim off some more of this fat right here. As you can see, there's some more fat inside here, y'all. I'm going to just take my knife and I'm going to just trim that off. Everything looks good in terms of the inside of the cavity. Just want to make sure that we get rid of as much fat as possible. Just take a look in the inside, make sure everything is good. I really want to trim this part off right here. Yeah, I really do. Because I don't like how this just sitting right here. Hold on for just a second. Now see, like this part right here, this little section right here that's hanging out, I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my knife and I'm just going to trim and carefully trim that off. All right, that looks good. All right, now at this point, you want to examine the entire goose to make sure that you've removed mostly all the fat from it. All right, especially from the cavity. Let's take one little final look at it, and it is good to go. All right, now in my sink, I added a little rack in there, and I'm gonna just take my goose and I'm just gonna add it on top of the rack like that. And from there, I'm just gonna carefully rinse it off with cold water. Just to rinse off all the blood and particles and stuff that might be on the goose. Now while you're preparing your goose, you want to take some time out and stop what you're doing and wash your hands. Because goose can be quite greasy. It's a little messy, so you want to do this throughout the preparation process. You want to just make sure that your hands are nice and clean, especially if you're not wearing gloves. All right, there we go. Nice and clean. All right, here we have our goose trimmed, cleaned, and ready to go. Now we're not finished yet. All right, so right here, kind of a little membrane right here that's kind of separating the skin. So what you do is you take a sharp knife and you just kind of just trim that off. And you can see right here what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing to the inside, like that. Don't try to prick the skin or anything, just go just like that. Just you gotta have a sharp knife though. And from there you just gotta eyeball it. Now how else you can tell is that you take your knife and you insert it, and you can see the edge of the knife right here. And you just take that and go like that, and you could just eyeball it from right here. Just make sure you watch your hand. That way you won't cut yourself or anything like that. And you're gonna do this until you get all the way to the front. And from there you could just take your hand and you could insert it into the goose just like that. Because what we're gonna do here is when we marinate the goose, we're gonna stick the seasoning underneath here, you see. All right, here I have about 6 to 8 cloves of garlic, and I went on ahead and cut those in half. All right, here I have a garlic press, and I'm just gonna take that and I'm just gonna press down on the garlic. All right, we transferred our pressed garlic into this small bowl. And to that, we're gonna add about a half a teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper, a half a teaspoon of Chef Paul Prud'homme's Poetry Magic, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of dried thyme. I'm gonna just stir all of this together. All right, now while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and add about 1.5 teaspoons of hickory liquid smoke. And I'm gonna just stir all of this together. You can also add a little bit of lemon in here if you like. All right, now here I have a large fork, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna poke holes into the goose. Now I'm starting from the back side first. Make sure you turn it over on the side. And do the same thing for the other side as well. All right, now we're going to take our garlic and seasoning mixture. Just I just take a little bit right here, and I'm gonna just insert it underneath the skin here. You only need a small amount of it. I could use any kind of seasoning blend or whatever of your choosing, doesn't really matter. Now you could take a small amount of it and also add it into the cavity. And the rest of it, you should have a little bit left. And just take the rest of it and just rub it all around the goose. Just massage it in there. Just turn it over. I'm gonna do the other side. Make sure you're massaging the goose so that way the flavors could get into the holes that we poked into the goose. All right, now that we got that nice and coated with the marinade. All right, here I am wrapping the goose with plastic wrap. I don't have a plastic bag, so I'm working with what I have today. Go. All right, and from there, I'm just gonna place that onto this baking pan here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and place this into my refrigerator for about 8 to 12 hours or overnight. All right, y'all, here we have our goose. We let it marinate overnight. It's early in the morning here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take my scissors and I'm just gonna cut this plastic wrap off the goose. Now there's one more thing that we're gonna have to do here. All right, here I have some dressing right here that I made. I'm gonna just take this and I'm gonna just add it into the cavity of the goose. Make sure you have enough dressing. Now this dressing is basically chicken, turkey, ham, and shrimp dressing with sage. Make sure it's stuffed all in there. Use a little force if you have to. All right, that looks good. That's about enough right there. And there we go, our goose is stuffed. All right, here we have our roasting pan. And remember all the pieces that we cut off, like the goose neck and everything. We're just gonna take that and we're just gonna add that around the bottom edge of the baking pan. Adding it toward the middle because the rack is gonna sit right there. All right, next up, I'm just gonna sprinkle about half a teaspoon of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper. It's very light. About a half a teaspoon of onion powder, and about 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. All right, next up, we're gonna go ahead and add our rack into the roasting pan, just like that. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and take our goose and we're gonna carefully add it into the roasting pan. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to 325 degrees. Now we took the legs was kind of sticking out here. I just stuck them into the baking pan like that. All right, next up, I'm gonna add 6 cups of room temperature water. Not ice cold water, not super hot water, room temperature water. Alright, now during the baking process, the water is going to literally evaporate, and from there the goose is going to release a lot of oil. We're going to just monitor this as we bake it, and we're going to baste it every hour. So let's go ahead and bake this. Now I'm going to go ahead and place this into a preheated 325 degree oven on the bottom rack. Now keep in mind that roasting times vary depending on the size of the goose and your oven and even your roasting pan. Now I'm going to bake this for 3 hours. Alright, our first hour is up. So let's go ahead and remove our goose out of the oven. Alright, now here I have a pastry brush and I'm going to just take some of the liquid from here and I'm just going to baste the goose. Even get to the part where the dressing is. Just baste it like that. And actually I have a plan for the wings here because the wings are kind of sticking out right here. I just try to stick them underneath there and put one of these in there. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side so that way the wings won't stick out during the baking process. Now back into the oven it goes. Alright, the second hour is up. Now let's go ahead and remove our goose out of the oven. Alright, here I have a pastry brush. Just take some of the liquid and I'm just going to baste the goose once again. But I tell you, this goose smells so good when it's baking in the oven. Oh my goodness. It smells better than a turkey. Alright, now back into the oven it goes. Alright y'all, it's hour number 3. So let's go ahead and remove our goose out of the oven. Alright, now here I have a pastry brush. I'm gonna just take some of the liquid and I'm just going to baste the goose once again. Now this is also at the stage where you want to begin inserting a meat thermometer to check the temperature to see whether or not if the goose is done or not. Now you want to make sure that you start checking about 15 to 20 minutes before the 3rd hour. Okay, so let's say for instance if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, so that means that you'll check around close to 9:40 or 9:45 or even earlier. Just make sure you just start checking and make sure. Now I'm gonna wait about 10 to 15 minutes before I insert the thermometer in the goose. Alright, so that way we can have a more accurate temperature. Alright, here I have a meat thermometer. I'm gonna go ahead and insert it into the lower part of the breast. Alright, I inserted the thermometer and the temperature reads about 175 degrees. That lets us know that our goose is done. Now I went on ahead and inserted my meat thermometer into the goose thigh, and this is the temperature here, about 175 degrees. And that's about the same temperature that we measured when we inserted the meat thermometer into the goose breast. So it is done. Now I'm gonna go ahead and transfer it with the rack. I'm gonna just place it into this 11 by 17 inch baking pan over here. Now I'm gonna just cover this with aluminum foil to keep that warm. And I'm gonna set this on the side. All right, now as for the goose parts, we're just gonna remove those out of the roasting pan. We're gonna place them into this small Tupperware here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add 5 cups of water right on in there. And to that, I'm going to sprinkle about 1/4 to a half a teaspoon of salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper, and a half a teaspoon of Chef Paul Prud'homme's Poetry Magic. I'm gonna go ahead and take my wooden spatula and I'm just gonna stir this while it's in the roasting pan. And what we're doing is basically we're doing a deglazing, so to speak. So we're taking a spatula and we're just gliding it onto the bottom and onto the sides of the roasting pan, and all of the pan juices and the flavors of the goose is going to come together with those seasonings, and it's going to combine with the water, so it's basically going to be like a stock on its own. There we go. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and take my pan and I'm gonna place it either into my refrigerator or freezer, because what's gonna happen is that all the flavors from the water and the grease and everything, it's gonna combine, but it's gonna settle at the bottom, and all the oil is gonna sit at the top. All right, y'all, I'll place this into my freezer for about 2 hours, and as you can see on top here, the fat has completely turned solid, and over here I kind of fooled with this a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just cut through the fat right here, kind of make a little drain thing, so to speak. And I'm gonna just lift this up. And underneath here, this is where all the liquids from the duck is. All right, now here I have a medium-sized bowl with a mesh strainer, and I'm just gonna take the pan juices and I'm just gonna pour them right into the mesh strainer. Just carefully pour all that in there. Y'all not gonna believe this fat. Look at this. Look at all this fat. That's all fat. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the mesh strainer, and all that's in there, you could just get rid of that. And as a result, all those pan juices and everything has created a wonderful and delicious goose stock. Now, once done, you should have about 5 to 5.5 cups of the goose stock in here. Now, as far as the solid fat goes, you could just take that and place that into this small bowl here. Oh my goodness, I have enough fat to make several roux over. If I need to make a roux, I don't even have to worry about nothing else. I got all the fat right here. Now to make the fat, I'm only going to need about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of this, and the rest of this could go in the freezer. And that's basically it. Preheat your fire to medium heat. All right, let's get started with our gravy. So in this large saucepan, remember our goose pan drippings, about 1/4 cup of that, right on in there. And to that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Now I'm going to take my wooden spatula and I'm just going to stir all the ingredients together. Now I'm going to stir this continuously for about 5 minutes or until the roux reaches a brown color, like how you see here. All right, next I'm going to add 4 1/2 cups of the goose stock right on in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my wooden spatula and I'm just going to stir this until combined. And I'm going to let this come to a simmer. All right, now for seasoning, I'm just going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul's Poetry Magic. Now I'm going to go ahead and just give this a quick stir. Remember our goose pieces. We're just going to add those in there. Don't add the skin in there, just add the necks and stuff like that, the giblets. You just add that in there. Everything else you could leave out. And I'm going to go ahead and just give this a quick stir. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. Now you're going to let this simmer for about 25 to 30 minutes, stirring occasionally. All right, y'all, it's been about 25 to 30 minutes now. And boy, this goose gravy smells magnificent, I tell you. Now I'm going to go ahead and just give this one last final quick stir. And we are done, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Oh, that looks so beautiful, y'all. Take a look at that consistency of that gravy. Look at that. That looks good. Yes, yes, yes. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. All right, now here's some quick tips here. Now as you can see right here, if I do like this, the gravy doesn't appear to be as thick. It looks really soupy. Well, the overall thickness will not be achieved until it cools down. So when you first get finished, it's going to look kind of soupy. That's normal. But as the mixture cools, it will thicken. All right. Now you're going to let this cool off for about 30 minutes to an hour before serving. And of course, for best results, you can serve this along with the goose the very next day, so that way the flavors can settle and increase overnight. Here is the final presentation. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Oven roasted stuffed goose with homemade goose gravy made by a New Orleans native. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. Now I have an official website for all of my recipes, including for this delicious oven roasted stuffed goose with homemade goose gravy. You can go to www.charliethecookandrews.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. Stay tuned as Charlie's Taste Test is coming up next. Can't wait. Now it's time to go ahead and take a bite. So I have a little bit of the goose on this side, and I also added the dressing that was stuffed into the goose along with the gravy on this side. Try the goose out and see. Ooh. Alright, now let me go ahead and try this dressing out. You already know how that's going to taste. Oh. Ooh. Wow, this is so good. The goose is nice, tender, and juicy. Now, the texture is kind of very similar to beef. It's it has a very strong resemblance to beef. And that garlic flavor along with those seasonings that we added, we marinated that goose in that. Oh boy, so good. Oh. And the flavor of the goose, it has a very strong gamey-like flavor. It's stronger than the turkey, the chicken, and the duck. It's really strong poultry flavor. It's also not fatty at all. It doesn't have a lot of fat in it at all. And the goose also has a very slight sweetness to it as well. Overall, this is an absolutely savory and delicious holiday dish. So, give the recipe a try. And that's it. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one. Peace.